There are 7 semi-auto / single-shot rifles in Remnant 2. Each of them has their own pros and cons. How they fare in Apocalypse difficulty is what we're here to find out. The Huntmaster is a bolt-action rifle that the Hunter archetype starts with. Sitting at 210 damage, it finds itself in the middle of the bunch. Its average damage is boosted up by the rest of the weapon's characteristics. The range is very good. At 27 meters, you'll pretty much never suffer damage fall off. This also applies to the Starkiller and Widowmaker. The reload speed is also pretty quick. Here's a neat tip, by the way. Many weapons can actually have their reload sped up by cancelling their reload animation. The time it saves varies on the weapon, and if done improperly, it'll just interrupt the reload. I don't do this during the rest of the demonstration, but I figured I'd mention it. And back to the Huntmaster. Topping off the list of pros is the weapon's recoil. Even with nothing invested into recoil reduction, the Huntmaster's is very manageable. This is even more apparent when aiming down the scope. The minimal kickback makes taking advantage of the weapon's increased weak spot damage quite easy. All around, it's a damn good rifle, and for my first build, I figured I'd do something a little funky. A Hunter-Explorer combo. Now you may be asking, why Explorer? Well, to be honest, I just wanted to have an excuse to run the archetype. Out of all 11 archetypes, Explorer is the least suited for combat purposes, hence the name. Planeswalker has its purpose in general movement, dodging, and melee builds. Gold Digger can grant 3 or 4 random buffs, and Fortune Hunter has 0 combat potential. Not to mention, 2 of the 4 perks do nothing to aid you in battle. All that being said, I really wanted to make a build using Gold Digger. I also wanted to beef up my weak spot hits. So for my trinkets, I ran Core Booster, Ring of Flawed Beauty, and Xania's Malice to do just that. I also ran Ring of Restocking just for the hell of it. And finally, I equipped Subterfuge Link to boost my mod and skill casting speed after getting a kill. For my mod and mutator, I went with Timelapse and Ghost Shell. As a side note, I noticed Timelapse's slow effect was bugged a bit into the recording and quickly swapped to Corrosive Rounds after that. It only really affected one fight with an elite, but I figured I should mention it. For my fragments, I grabbed weak spot damage, crit chance, and mod / skill casting speed. I also picked up Flash Caster and the traits for a super big casting speed boost. I ended up swapping around my trinkets when in boss fights, but for mobbing this was pretty fun. Obviously this is nowhere near optimal, but there's something really satisfying about digging a lot of holes really fast. The gameplay loop became kill, dig, repeat. Pretty entertaining, and not painfully sluggish, thanks to our buffs. I'd say this was an interesting build. Probably would have been more impactful with a team to reap the benefits of the fountains. Either way, the gun being Apocalypse ready is what allowed me to even run this setup. Next up is Nightfall. This semi-auto bone launcher is quite the terrifying sight. At 93 damage, it places it in 5th place above the pulse rifle. Its lower damage comes with the benefit of having a decent fire speed. It used to be higher, but I think it's still pretty good. Like Merciless, it fires projectiles instead of hit-scan bullets. It also has the shortest range of the group at 18 meters. It does deal 5% bonus weak spot damage though, and it has a decent stagger modifier. The main attraction of the gun is its mod, Dreadwalker. This mod sends you into the Nightmare Realm, and by that I mean it makes you misty, shoot faster, gain 10% lifesteal, unlimited ammo, and your gun also becomes fully automatic. This mod is absolutely nuts. Even without anything else buffing the weapon, you can easily rip through groups of mobs, and while not visible, it basically leaves behind a delayed version of yourself that draws enemy aggro. This is insanely useful for helping evade all sorts of attacks. For a build, I knew I definitely wanted to squeeze as much out of Dreadwalker as I could. For my equipment, I ran Lemire Sensor, Zohe's Ring, and the Mod Duration Fragment to boost our mod duration up by 80%. I also grabbed White Pawn Stamp, Burden of the Warlock, and the Mod Cost Fragment to drop our mod cost by 35%. The last fragment went to Fire Rate, and my archetypes were Alchemist and Gunslinger. For my relic, I went with Ruined Heart for some health and mod gen. The goal was to keep Dreadwalker up for as long as possible, and when it's gone, get it back ASAP. Even though Dreadwalker locks you out of using abilities while active, there's nothing stopping you from just using them beforehand. If you run Bulletstorm and Frenzy Dust at the same time Dreadwalk is active, you get some really good DPS. Originally, I had Extender equipped, but I realized I didn't need it and swapped to Twisting Wounds for the hell of it later on. Overall, the gun is really powerful and absolutely apocalypse ready. Coming up, we have the Pulse Rifle. This is personally my favorite weapon of the bunch. This gun shoots in rapid 3-round bursts. It may be the lowest damage of the lot, but it more than makes up for it with its high rate of fire, 10% crit chance, 5% bonus weak spot damage, and sizable amount of ammo. Everything about this weapon feels really good. The only downside of the weapon really is the magazine size. Thankfully, the reload speed isn't that slow. Time to make a build. I wanted to make a build around Devloop. For my archetypes, I ran Hunter and Challenger, Hunter's Mark and Rampage being my chosen skills. For trinkets, I ran Nightweaver's Grudge, Acid Stone, Stone of Balance, Probability Cord, and of course Devloop. For my fragments, Crit Chance, Crit Damage, and Fire Rate, and Corrosive Rounds and Momentum for my mod and Mutator. For notable traits, I grabbed Ammo Reserves and Flashcaster. Since we'd be throwing out so many crits, we'll have plenty of chances to reset our skills. Mobs pretty much drop in 1 or 2 bursts with this build. I mean, it's a crit based build, of course it's gonna slap. And when you're pretty much always critting, every round is rolling the dice to get your skills back. Since Rampage gets its duration refreshed per stat gain, we have plenty of time to try to get it back. The same goes for Hunter's Mark as well. Very fun build, and with an apocalypse ready weapon nonetheless. Starkiller is the return of the particle accelerator from Remnant 1. In its jump from 1 to 2, it has received a lot of changes. Its damage has been increased from 210 to 240, it now deals 10% more weak spot damage, its shot penetrates targets, and Gravity Core's blast radius has been doubled. Now on to the nerfs. The total ammo has been reduced from 40 to 35. The crit chance has been reduced from 15% to 5%. And Gravity Core's blast and ramp up damage has been reduced from 1500 to 750 and 900 to 600 respectively. Obviously, the drop in damage is the most notable change, but the other buffs do help out a fair bit. The penetrating rounds can be helpful occasionally. Lining up several weak spots feels great, but it's not something you can do consistently. The mod itself is pretty much the same from the first game, although the drop in damage means several trash mobs can survive the blast with no damage investment. It doesn't help that enemies can just run out of the blast before it goes off. Sadly, Amplitude doesn't seem to increase the area of effect either. Now it may seem like the weapon is in a bit of a poor state, but with the right build, we can make it closer to its original glory. Unfortunately, we run into the problem where we need to decide which side of the weapon to invest in. Much like Merciless, it's a case where the mod and base fire don't synergize. For my build, I grabbed Archon and Summoner for maximum mod damage buffing. And then I equipped Gold Ribbon, Shard Banded Ring, Stone of Balance, and the mod damage fragment for even more damage. White Pawn Stamp, Warlock, and the mod cost fragment combined with Archon drop the mod cost in half. This makes it possible to get your charge back in less than 1 mag. Combined together, you end up getting a build that can pretty easily destroy most mobs. For bossing though, it's definitely not terrible. Taking out chunks of a boss's health bar can be pretty cool, but even with getting the mod back so quickly, you'd be getting better results by just shooting them with a normal build. Maybe if the damage were closer to its original Remnant 1 counterpart, it'd be better. The weapon is apocalypse ready, just be sure you know what you're getting into when you use it. The sniper rifle makes its return in Remnant 2 as the Widowmaker. This weapon only got 2 changes. The crit chance has been reduced from 20% to 10%, and the rate of fire has been increased from 2 to 2.4. Obviously, you'll only notice that rate of fire buff when running the Bandit Mutator. The weapon feels pretty much the same as it did in the first game. Every shot hits hard, but you gotta reload after every one. The 20% bonus weak spot damage amplifies this even further. For a build, I decided on a Hunter Invader combo like with the Spore Bloom. In this case, I grabbed Void Idol for the increased reload speed and ammo conservation. Then for rings, I equipped Probability Cord and Xania's Malice for crits and weak spot hits. Then I grabbed Outcast and Blackout Ring for a boost to reload speed. For my fragments, it was the typical weak spot and crit boosting ones. And for my mod and Mutator, I ran Corrosive Rounds and Slayer. While Slayer may only be an additive damage bonus in Remnant 2, it's still a good mutator. Surprise surprise, crits are powerful. There's a reason why its chance was lowered going into this game. But yeah, you can land some really nasty weak spot crit hits, and Wormhole helps us get out that occasional super boosted shot. Just make sure to use them, and don't forget like me. I chose Quilted Heart for this setup as it allowed me to safely spam dodge roll to safety if I got hurt. Overall, a very strong build, which makes sense as the weapon is definitely apocalypse ready. Last but not least is the hunting rifle, now going by the name Wrangler. Just like the Widowmaker, it has only received 2 changes. The rate of fire has been increased from 1.9 to 2.1, and the max ammo has been decreased from 60 to 50. I was a fan of it back then, and I'd still say I'm one now. It still has a bit of spread when rapid firing shots, but they seem to mostly stay in the center of the crosshair. The biggest pain with the weapon, as it was back then, is the slow reload. Having to load every bullet one after the other multiple times can be a bit annoying. Thankfully in Remnant 2, we have options for reloading instantly via ammo mods or gunslinger perks. For this build, I decided to do another weird one. For the first time on this series, I'm breaking out Engineer. Why, you might ask? Well, the Wrangler is on the lower end of damage among the semi and single shot rifles. It's not bad at all, but it could use some support. What better way than to have a portable fireball launcher help finish off the targets you've shot and vice versa. For my setup, I used Gunslinger for quick draw, and Engineer for Flamethrower. Using our maximum skill cooldown, we can bring quick draw to an 8-second downtime. This is insanely fast. Every 8 seconds we can reload the Wrangler instantly. If we got the buff from the All-Seeing Eye, it'd actually be 4 seconds. And that's not even including Overflow, which will give us a free reload and faster reload speed should we need it. For my mutator, I just ran Deadly Calm. For my other 2 fragments, I ran Recoil Reduction and Modern Skill Cast Speed. This build was really funny, and surprisingly effective. The Wrangler works pretty well when you don't ever have to reload it, and thankfully when you do, it ends up not being so bad. The weapon is certainly apocalypse ready. Oh yeah, I said there were 7 weapons. The last one is the Rusty Lever Action. It's the tutorial gun. It does have some benefits over the Wrangler, such as an increased range and total ammo. However, that's where the positives end and the negatives begin. First of all, it doesn't have a mod or mutator slot. It also doesn't have a chance to crit at all, and it has no bonus weak spot damage. If you want to do a challenge run, use this and the Rester Repeater Pistol. I'll let you decide if they're apocalypse ready. We're really getting these videos out, huh? Next week I'll be covering the fusion rifles. Leave a comment down below letting me know which one of these is your favorite. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.